here's my lore. So before we get started with the story, this is my diary. I have drawn and written everything. You guys will be able to see that, and sorry that the text formatting is gonna be really funky because it was really hard to format everything when there's a picture there. And you have varying sizes of paragraphs, and it's just a pain. Ignore the text, enjoy the pictures. I drew all this, and this is the quality you're gonna get. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. And for this is me as an angel. So you know what happens when we go as angel? It is angel time. Saphera de Noma's diary. Sit back and relax, everyone. My first memory, warmth and darkness, floating within a cozy suspension, drifting in an endless pitch-black void in which I could neither make top nor bottom of. That was until a small seam of white crept into my peripheral. It moved across my vision in jagged motions, splitting open the darkness to a curious light. Instinctively, I reached out towards it. Within moments, the darkness seemed to give way with an audible crack. Searing bright white light, bright white, blinded me from every angle. It took me a few moments to compose myself, letting my scrunched up face slowly relax. With a tentative flutter, my eyes opened to gaze upon the world before me, which was what to be was my home. A large, spacious white room greeted me with even brighter lights shining from above. I tentatively gripped and peeked out from the shards of my broken ovoid capsule, the comforting warmth slowly leaving my damp, shivering body. Along the tiled floor, I saw a multitude of other similar eggs spaced evenly throughout the room. Some were fully intact, others were completely broken open into a heap of shards, and yet many others were just like me, still gathering our bearings as we struggled out of the first shelter we ever knew. Spread across the room were various older angels in white coats over their white robes, slowly pacing around the room. They gazed down at each capsule and its inhabitants with cold, scrutinizing eyes. In the hands were what I would come to realize to be clipboards, but the writing on the inked pages were no more than unintelligible symbols and unreadable scrawls. One such angel hovered above me, nodding to themselves as they etched more ink onto their papers. 4 wings, I remember them muttering. But no sooner was I registering my environment that another angel came and scooped me up from my goopy puddle of a home and hurried me to a separate room. There, I saw many others just like me, covered in our own filth before we were promptly wiped clean, examined, and given loose white clothing to wear. While we waited in yet another room, I saw many kinds of angels. Some angels had 1 pair of wings, some 2, like me. Some had only 1 singular wing, or even 3 total wings, with no pairing to be seen. Our hairs were also unique, ranging from both the style to the color. I even saw a rainbow-haired angel. We also had differing heights. Some were super tall. Some were super small and cute, though many of us were around the same height. What mattered, though, was that we were all born around the same time, from the same room, and we were to be in this next generation of the city, high above, in the clouds in the realm to which I will refer to as the above. "Listen up, angels," said one of the coat-wearing adults. "You are to line up and receive your ID, your lodgings, your necessities, and to integrate into our society for the good of all the above. Do not disappoint our leading father, and all shall be peaceful and just in this city. Remember, we are but one of the many cities in the above, and you are but one of the many angels that will continue to make our beloved city prosper like the rest. Let us not fail all that came before, and all that will come after." And just like that, I was shuttled off. I, like the rest of my cohort, learned the routine fairly quickly. Since we were but hatchlings and novice angels, our first few years were dedicated to learning the basics, to learn how to write, create, and use light magic. I won't go over the boring school part because, well, school was boring. But magic was fun. We learned how to heal and rejuvenate in case of injuries. We learned a bit of holy magic to banish evil, set up barriers, and even to cause temporary blindness. My favorites were levitation and realistic illusions, though, mostly because my wings couldn't exactly lift me off the ground with ease, and illusory magic made me look so cool. Speaking of flying, I should briefly interject to let you know how our city worked. We're a city on top of a large, thick cloud high above the skies, far beyond human perception, but not quite so far that we're in space. Think of it as a pocket dimension in the skies that only magical beings can access. Within the city, you can fly to wherever you need to go if you wish and have the ability to, but they were very accommodating and had normal ground transportation, if you can consider a cloud a ground, for those with less fortunate natural abilities or those that were elderly or even just not in the mood to expend energy, like me. The only restriction was you couldn't fly out of the city. It is basically impossible to dive off the edge, as a strong magical barrier prevents you from careening off the side or diving through the floor. So, as it was like a protected bubble of an ivory-clad city atop some clouds, lost and disconnected from the rest of the world. And just like that, our youth, as brief as it was soon over. I became a working drone like everyone else. For me, I was an office employee in a corporate office, doing desk work and data entry every workday. It was the same routine, over and over. Wake up, eat breakfast, greet neighbors as we all left our living spaces at the same time, walk or fly the same routes, to the same streets of tall buildings, head off into our respective companies, work in the office all day, return home, say goodnight to neighbors, eat dinner, sleep, repeat. In every aspect of this life, it was white walls, white floors, white clothing, white clouds, white buildings, white furniture, and white lights. The only sense of color in this isolated world was the bright open blue skies and the occasional glimpse of color in others' hairs and eyes. But even then, they were all bleached in their saturation as the surrounding white consumed my vision. It was all the same bland, dull lifestyle, the same white city, the same bleached colors, day in, day out. Not even the setting of the sun could bring any reprieve as the brightness of the city blotched out the stars, leaving us only an empty, near pitch black blue. I've heard about Earth, about how lush and full of life it was down below, where colors of the rainbow abound, where there were such things as green plants, brown dirt, colorful flowers and fruits, other living creatures, some creatures even tamed by other creatures, and kept as companions, and things such as unpredictable weathers and oceans and volcanoes. It sounded more alive than this desolate white utopia to which I have grown tired of. I wanted, just for a day, to visit this Earth, to see what it was like, to experience excitement. It was this wish during work, while I gazed out the window at the open blue and vast white clouds below, and with a wistful sigh that got me into trouble. "Hey you, Saphera!" Huh? I jolted in my seat, frantically scrambling my fingers over the keyboard as I glanced up at my boss. "That's the 5th time this week," he said with a scowl. "In all my years as a manager in this company, I have never seen an angel so distracted and unproductive in my entire life." All eyes were on me. My heart rate increased, my body sweating as I tried to cower into my seat. I've had enough." He set down an empty white cardboard box on top of my white desk. "Pack your things and don't come back." With that, he left. The other angels nearest to me stared for another few seconds, some murmuring amongst themselves in disbelief, before the manager loudly cleared his throat. They all silenced then, and their keys were clacking faster and noisier than before, but all that was quickly drowned out by my own beating heart. I got fired, I thought to myself, my vision blurring as I shakingly packed the few things on my desk that seemed important. A plushie of a pink angelic blob that a coworker gifted to everyone, a picture frame of me and my floor mates, and a few cute stationery items that I bought to stand out amidst the standard plain pens and sticky notes. It wasn't long before I was done. I got up from my desk, wiped my eyes on my arms, and had my walk of shame out of the floor and out of the company building. I could feel curious eyes boring themselves into me, even as I descended and exited the building, as I was leaving well before anyone else ever did. I was breaking the routine, exiled as only a few others had dared done before me, and speaking of those exiled from the regular norm of the society, no one has ever heard from them again. Rumors say you can simply go to the employment center and get a new job to better suit your role. But as far as I knew, everyone who had been fired from their first and only job just simply vanished, never to come back or be seen by anyone else. A sense of dread sinked into my stomach as I walked out onto the white ground of fluffy clouds. The thought of vanishing without a trace, without anyone caring to look for me, without anyone to notice, only made the pit in my stomach worse. If I cease to be, is that it? For me? For my life? Is this how I was going to die? Death for an angel was seldom talked about. Even the most elderly of the elderly still soldier on, just at a slower pace compared to the youngest ones. But I wasn't allowed to dwell on such thoughts for very long. While I was lost in my thoughts, my next step on what should have been a comfy floor was met instead with empty resistance. Before I could even register what was happening, I felt something sharp and painful pierce my back. I fell. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The pain immobilized me as I felt gravity seize my body and throw me down, down, down. Through what I barely remembered. In 1 second there was a gap to the floor, the next gone, swallowed back whole as if nothing had happened. My vision faded in and out, darkness threatening to seize me. Before my vision faded entirely, I vaguely remember the contents of my meager box scattering in front of me, floating aimlessly into the open sky. White feathers flew into my peripheral, only for me to blink. Black vision. I was out. When I came to, my entire body felt heavy like lead. My eyelids struggled to open, and the ground felt much more different than usual. It felt cold, damp, uneven, and even a little prickly. It wasn't until I blinked a few more times and struggled to sit up that I noticed green. Green, lush grass. Trees with large brown splayed branches and gently swaying leaves. In the distance, I heard the unfamiliar cacophonous sounds of a nearby bustling city with voices and machinery blending in an auditory blur. Am I on Earth? I whispered out of belief. I was disoriented, but excitement was creeping up on me and slowly overtaking my senses. The pain I experienced upon waking soon faded as I scrambled up onto my bare feet, feeling the grass between my toes and grinning wildly as I saw small birds fly by and squirrels in the distance. This is Earth! I almost giggled and danced with pure ecstasy before I noticed a nearby pond. In the reflection, I saw my grime-covered face, but most shockingly were my newly obtained demon wings on the right side of my body, and the addition of an admittedly cute tail. I poked and prodded at them, only to be shocked further when I found out that they were in fact very real, very feeling, and that this wasn't some weird prank at all. I'm not an angel anymore? I murmured to myself as I tugged on the one on my head, only to give myself a headache from the growing pain. But I couldn't mull on it more as I heard voices and footsteps quickly approaching. Instincts told me to run and hide, since something told me the sight of me in person wouldn't be good for this world. I dove into some bushes and hid there until darkness set. While I expected the cover of night to provide some relief, the pesky street lamps kept things illuminated enough that I couldn't feel safe to creep out yet. Then I remembered I had illusory magic, and even though I may have lost half my angel powers, it seems my illusion magic still worked, as I hid my wings and tail from sight. Leaving my hiding spot, I crept around the quieting city, avoiding any humans as I scoured the buildings. With a stroke of luck, I found a house that looked empty, dark, and unlived in for some time. It surprisingly wasn't hard to break in and get my bearings that way, including a new pair of comfy clothes, socks, and even discovering the internet. Before I knew it, I was enamored by human culture and their way of living. I wanted to explore this world more, to learn more, to experience new things. So that is where I am now, dear reader. A Nephilim who lives in random houses, attics, and will stream to learn more about human culture through their games. Pleased to meet you all! Woo! That's it for the lore, you guys! I hope you enjoyed it.